Today, we are joined by Chief Marshal Hopper and Probation Manager Aaron Johnson of Placer County to talk about their innovative approach to servicing their communities through mobile probation vehicles and how these vehicles have become a moving landmark to the probationers they serve. Good afternoon, Chief Marshal Hopper from Placer County. And we also have joining us today Aaron Johnson, a probation manager, also from Placer County, to talk to us about some really great outreach that you're doing in your county and how that actually became a bit of a model for some statewide work that we're seeing roll throughout the state. And I do mean roll. So let's start there. Chief Hopper, tell us a little bit about why we're here today.
Well, in the fall of 2021, I was asked if I had any interest in utilizing the Placer County bookmobile, which at that time wasn't being used. So I thought about it for a little bit and had some discussions with my counterparts in the justice system and our CEO's office, and I decided to give it a shot and to try to utilize that vehicle within our own department to conduct outreach to the clients that have difficult times seeing us.
Oh, so maybe we should take a step back because I think most people who are listening probably are already familiar with probation and what they do. But just in case we have somebody who isn't, how unusual is this? Is probation often in the field, and in what situations are they in the field versus maybe something that you might be doing with this particular vehicle?
Well, probation is in the field on a regular daily basis, connecting with the community, connecting with the clients that we serve to help provide meaningful engagement and change lives. So it's not uncommon for us to be out in the field. What is uncommon is for us to utilize a vehicle such as this to break down those barriers for those that can't report to us.
And when you say break down barriers, I'm going to guess you're not actually physically driving the vehicle through a barrier, but what kind of barriers are you thinking of?
Well, I'm talking about transportation barriers. A lot of individuals are not able to make it to the probation office. And I developed this vehicle so we could really meet them where they are, in a place where we can make sure that we are complying with their terms and conditions of probation, seeing them like we're supposed to. Because if they can't make it to us, then we have no other choices than to file violations of probation, which brings them down as well. So the thought was to meet them where they are, provide them opportunities to succeed through the use of this vehicle.
And did your CEO and the county kind of think, oh, this is a great idea, or did they kind of look at you askew?
We had several conversations at the time regarding how it could be utilized, and I just really emphasized that I wanted to bring probation to a community near you. I wanted to bring us to the clients that we serve, meet them where they are, and provide them the best services possible. Because at the end of the day, if I can eliminate some of those barriers overall in the justice system, that's less warrants, that's less court hearings, that's less cost to the taxpayer dollar. If I can reduce that by just seeing them where they are and accomplishing what I would normally do in the office, then it's a win-win for everybody.
That does seem to make sense. Seems like a great use of government, again, meeting people where they are. So how did the chief talk you into this crazy idea, Aaron?
Well, during the development stage of the vehicle, Marshall asked for input throughout the department, and I was able to assist with some of the build out of the vehicle. And really, it's a great opportunity to see how we can get a mobile office into each community that we serve in Placer County. It's a pretty diverse geographic location, and so we have some very small underserved communities as well as some transportation issues. So it's been a lot of fun, and we've also been able to incorporate court, other outreach services, as well as just going into certain communities each day of the week.
So what's inside the vehicle? What's it look like?
The inside of the vehicle is set up like a little mobile office. So typically when we roll it into the field, we'll have a probation officer and a health and human services representative. It has 2 computers on board that the clients can use or watch videos. It has a Wi-Fi hotspot so that our computers work faster, Health and Human Services computers work faster, and clients that are waiting either inside or outside can also use that service. And essentially what it allows us to do is it allows us to access classes, access the courtroom, access things such as CalFresh, CalWorks, things of that nature.
Oh, great. So it sounds like, Chief Hopper, this is it's good for the clients. It sounds like you're saying by being out in the field, it's also probably good for public safety. Do you find it efficient as well? Are you gaining efficiencies?
Yeah, I do. I do find it very efficient. In fact, since we started this program in 2021, we've had over 3,000 contacts, meaning those are individual contacts that we would have normally had in the office. And those are individuals that needed probation services, that needed our practitioners' assistance. So we've utilized it in that avenue. We've also developed a rotating schedule where the vehicle travels on a daily basis to different cities within our jurisdiction. So we can also help our local law enforcement agencies connect with their unsheltered population as well. And so the goal is the vehicle travels, law enforcement works with us, and the practitioners, so we can really serve our communities and the unsheltered population.
So you mentioned the unsheltered population. Would you say that's a majority of what you're using the vehicle for, or is it a variety of different probationers?
I would say it's the majority of those, just because, again, breaking down those barriers and connecting with them. In Placer County, we have roughly a little over 319 individuals that are classified as homeless. And those individuals are on probation for a wide variety of crimes, but many of them are considered high risk. And what I don't want to do is to overlook a high risk individual in my community simply because they're homeless. What I want to do is to supervise them in compliance with their terms, but also make sure they're held accountable, make sure they're complying, they're getting services, drug testing, rehabilitative opportunities, so they can succeed, then we all succeed.
So prior to this vehicle being in operation, how else would you have reached that community?
We were having them come to the office.
Oh, okay.
And sometimes a bus ride to our office in Roseville or office in Auburn, could be hours. Even when they only live, actually, their camp might be 5 miles away. It could take them several hours to get to our office. So that was a huge kind of a barrier that was in the way, because why would they want to come and see us where I could probably walk there faster than I can get there on a bus? But some of these individuals, they don't travel very well. So we wanted to break down that barrier as well.
So what's it, how you said you have it, is it every day in service? Is it, just as a rotation throughout the county?
So there's a rotation, and the cities that we serve most frequently are going to be Lincoln, Rockland, Roseville, and Auburn.
Okay.
And we have check-in times where essentially individuals will come and check in 3-hour windows. And the advantage that this gives, we still have officers that are the boots on the ground approach that are going to the actual physical camps of the homeless. Mm-hmm. But now what this enables us to do is when we need to sit down, have air conditioning or heat, get out of the weather, we can use our computers and we can have those long conversations that might be at times 30 minutes or an hour that you could never really do practically at the campsite. So that's probably the biggest difference, that this enables us to just move the office to exactly where they're at and then move the office back at the end of the day.
Is it a special unit that's assigned to the vehicle and goes to all these different places, or does it rotate out? Like, how many people do you normally have working the vehicle?
So essentially in the middle of May, we created a new outreach division.
Oh, okay.
What we did is we restructured internally to best be efficient and make sure that we can serve the needs of the homeless in our community. And prior to that, we had different division managers that were responsible for where the vehicle would be. Now that is all under one division.
Okay. Okay, great.
And if I could just elaborate on that a little bit, the creation of that division was really to create a team of experts regarding the unsheltered population, because those that are on probation or those that even aren't on probation, they have specific needs and things that we would like to help them with to get to a better place. And if I can bring a team of probation officers that are experts in the field, then the opportunity for their success is much higher.
So talk to me a little bit about the data. You kind of have made a few points about that, and I know that's really important to probation, but to Placer specifically, you guys have always kind of looking at your data, kind of seeing what's happening. What kind of data points would you share as success?
Well, I think first off, the connection of those 3,000 points of contact, and I emphasize points of contact because it's not people, but people that come in and see us on a regular basis. That demonstrates to me that the vehicle is working, that they are seeing us, which potentially before the vehicle was deployed, they wouldn't have seen us that frequently. I also have to emphasize the ability to have that meaningful engagement. Like Aaron was just talking about, you can't really have a good interview at a homeless camp out there, in the creek bed or whatever, where you can bring them back and we can sit down and actually talk about plans and develop a case plan and figure out how we're going to do our best to help them change their lives.
That's great. So you've been doing this now for a couple of years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what lessons learned? When you started, what did you wish you had known now that you've been in this for a little bit?
Well, I think one lesson learned, I think it's important to be able to utilize an adaptive management style. Just because it's working today doesn't mean it's going to work tomorrow. Just because it's working in the city of Auburn, it may not be working in Lincoln. So you need to be able to adapt your plan and to make it work for the population that you're serving. Because the things that we do in Auburn may not work in Roseville because this is different. Mm-hmm. And you have to be able to adjust your approach and have your team make the same kinds of adjustments as well.
Sure. What have you liked best about being a part of this project?
I think the best part is the satisfaction in knowing that we're making a change out in the community. Mm-hmm. We have people that stop by all the time. We have people that used to be on probation that check in just because they want to let you know how they're doing. We have people that have never been on probation that check in just because they want to let you know how you're doing or how they're doing. And it's pretty fulfilling in that sense that, I think most people want to know that someone kind of has their eye out for them to make sure that everything's going okay. So we find that when we do our check-ins, oftentimes like when we're in Roseville, we get between 20 and 30 check-ins in about a 3-hour period. And some of those folks have never had status, but they just want to come say hi and let you know how they're doing.
Wow. And how would the interaction be with somebody who didn't have status? What would be the types of things that you would be able to do for someone like that?
Well, we can still connect them to services. So whether that might be assisting them with the 211 process to look at housing, whether that looks at medical, dental, vision, whether that looks at other opportunities such as CalFresh, all those are opportunities that exist on board. And Marshall's always been one of the few chiefs that says it's for everybody. We don't only serve people on probation because we want to make sure that we're serving everyone in our community.
So let's talk a little bit about that because it seems as though this is a really super creative, way to accomplish the mission of probation. What you guys are doing is very consistent, right, with what we do in probation generally. And your county seems to have been embracing these ways in which to fold probation into some of the issues that they're grappling with, the homeless situation specifically. Are you seeing yourself kind of pulled into more of those conversations as probation because of this and other things?
Well, I think one thing that's, I guess, worth noting is we've been doing diversionary programs forever in the juvenile world. This is truly no different to the people that are not on probation. We're helping divert them from becoming in the system or they're on their way to the system. The only difference between the juveniles and adults that are unsheltered is the juveniles, that program, it feels good to the community. It feels good because we're helping kids. It's the same concepts and the same values that we put into our program because we are truly doing our best to help individuals that are unsheltered and at any time could become on probation. And so if we can help those people from entering the justice system if they haven't already, then that's one less victim in our community.
It's a great point. And it seems like many people, even outside of Placer, agreed because, I know when I was sitting in one of our region meetings at CPOC and you had just been approached by the county about this bookmobile. And so you were sharing with your colleagues a little bit about you were kind of trying to decide if it made sense and how it would work. And you were a little cautious about getting too excited, but, there's no stopping me. I started to hear it, right? And we immediately kind of put the concept into some of the things that we wanted to be talking to people up here in Sacramento about, finding a way to talk about it statewide. At the same time, there was a lot of attention being paid to how are we going to be creative around providing help to the homelessness issue. And I think there's a lot of work that still needs to be done in that area. But the governor really liked the concept and put it in his budget. And now there's money for the state to try to put some of these vehicles in other jurisdictions as well. So keep coming up with great ideas.
Thank you. I'm working on it.
Placer does tend to do some of that. You talked a little bit about kind of globally why it's important, but I'm wondering if you have any just stories, just really great success stories or individual, like what it looks like to a person that you would want to share with us today.
Well, Aaron will have a couple of the detailed stories, but I'll comment just a little bit on that. I think that as he mentioned a minute ago, people sometimes just come by that are homeless, not on probation, just to check it out, to see if it's a safe place for them to come. We have had it utilized as a warming center, a cooling center. We've also had a couple individuals just come into the POV and say, hey, I'm feeling suicidal. Is there somebody here that can help me? And our probation officer and practitioner took care of it and got that person to a safer place. So it has become a landmark, so to speak, that roams around Placer County, and that the population knows that that's a place to go that's safe and a place to go for help.
A moving landmark. I like the sound of that. What about you, Aaron? Tell us a little bit about some stories about the difference it's made.
Well, I think the difference that it makes, and again, it's used throughout the community. So it's used at community events, it's used in parades, it's used for outreach at schools and job fairs. And I think one of the things is it starts to bridge that gap between the average citizen and the unsheltered. So we have a lot of folks that'll stop by to ask what it is. We give them a tour. They ask how they can assist in the mission of decreasing homelessness in our community. So all those are huge wins. And then, of course, we've got a lead officer that at times he's had somebody that has anxiety about maybe going to the doctor. And, hey, well, you're already on board. Put your seatbelt on. Let's just go. And so we have pictures of this mobile vehicle that's 30 feet long in front of the hospital there, Sutter Roseville, and making sure that people get that continuum of care that they need. And so there's a lot of success stories that sometimes it's a little anecdotal, but it's great to see that it does become that beacon. People seek it. They can see it from a great distance away. It builds intrigue. And again, for people that are in the homeless community, they know that when they see that we're there, and they often are coming to us as soon as we park the vehicle.
And one of the things that strikes me as I'm listening to you tell this story is that, it does become something that people are looking for, right? And as a place to get help, which isn't always how people think of government these days, right? Or even law enforcement. And it seems as though you're kind of building some culture there within Placer for people to want to outreach to the outreach vehicle.
I think that on that note, we really do our best to try to utilize a boots on the ground approach, and that's just kind of a term that I've used quite a bit lately. Understanding that with the unsheltered population or even people on probation, we need to meet them where they are, but we need to help them get to a better place for them, not what we think is their better place. So, and what I mean by that is for one person's success might just be getting a California ID today. That might be a really big deal to somebody. If we sit back from our outside viewpoint and think that the way to solve all this is having, a house and a car and a dog and all these things that we love to have in society, but to them, they're just trying to make it through the day. And if we can use this vehicle, use my team to help them get to a better place, then that day was a success.
Mm-hmm. And helping with system navigation is paramount. If you think about in an average day, the average person in California needing to get services just to pay your DMV, go to the post office, check in with your doctor, whatever those look like, it's difficult enough with traffic and parking and, vehicle maintenance, all of that. Now, that all compounds when you're in a homeless state. And when you're trying to get from one facility to another, Unfortunately, not everything's under one umbrella, but what we can do is we can offer nearly all those services out of one vehicle.
Is there any courtroom intersect with the vehicle?
Yes.
Yeah, the vehicle is set up to hold court hearings within the vehicle itself. We have a community court, which used to be referred to as homeless court, but now it's called community court. And we have the ability to actually hear court hearings directly from the vehicle. We've held court hearings, numerous court hearings where the DA is in the courtroom with the judge, probation officer, and the client is sitting there in the vehicle. We hold a court hearing. We verify community service. Cases are dismissed, and so forth, right from the vehicle. We've also utilized it just recently at stand down. Is that what it's called? At stand down Placer, where we held veterans court directly from the vehicle just a few weeks ago to help individuals that might have active warrants that we can help resolve directly from this operation, stand down Placer. So that way we can help them as well. So it's been a pretty great success. It's very much similar to your Zoom contacts,
Sure.
which I have to give credit to COVID for something. So that is basically a product of that because we became more comfortable as a justice system
Right.
with that process.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. You've had to layer on this, the timing of of what you were doing was probably exacerbated by the COVID experience, but also some of the lessons learned in COVID kind of allowed us to build off of that. So is there enough use that you need more than one of these vehicles?
Yes, there is. In fact, we are one of the grant recipients for the new
Great.
vehicle. So we'll be we don't have a name for it yet. My staff have called it the mini POV, but we'll figure out something better than that. But we want to utilize a sprinter type van, so it's more mobile. We can get out in the community. We can take people to appointments. We can utilize our current probation outreach vehicle as maybe the base station, but it really does open up opportunities, and especially for our team that will be roaming from jurisdiction to jurisdiction and providing services to the cities and the different law enforcement agencies.
So do you have people banging down your door, either mobile or otherwise, trying to get on this unit so that they can work in the field on this? Is it a popular assignment for probation officers?
Incredibly popular. It's popular amongst other counties as well. I know we just booked 2 appointments today for people to come out from other counties
great.
and see how we've set it up. But we have officers that are certainly very pleased with the operation and are happy to be part of the team that gets to go out and use it.
That's really great. Well, I mean, again, so much gets piloted. It feels like in your county, you guys have always done a great work around being innovative. But this was definitely a standout, especially at a time of need where the homeless population seems to need more. There are more of them, and so very responsive. Anything else around that work in general in Placer that you would that you see probation and our mission kind of tying into?
Well, I just think that also I mentioned earlier about our outreach team. That's kind of a work in progress with our probation officers doing that type of work. I think it also provides experts in the field. It provides accountability because I think we all know that there might be maybe some people on probation that say they're homeless and they may not really be homeless. So this team will hopefully flesh those people out, and so
Right.
we can get them onto a better track and becoming more honest with this. At the same time, providing the ones that are truly homeless services as well. But I think there's a nexus between what we do and this population, because at the end of the day, we're about reducing victims in our community and changing lives.
Wow. A balance of both. Like I hear you both talking a lot about the services and the benefit to the client, but can't be lost, right? That this is also such a benefit to the community as a whole because of the public safety aspect that's delivered, as a byproduct of those services that you're providing.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So any other, either lessons learned or anecdotes? I mean, I think, we've talked a lot about conceptually, but, and I know we almost try to stay away from anecdotes and stories in probation because we want to kind of stick to the data and try to explain it. But I think sometimes that brings it home as to what the difference is. Is there a particular client that stands out to you that you can share their story?
I think for me, I even look at an event we did last week where we had close to 100 people walk through.
Wow.
And those are individuals that might not know anything about probation, might not know anything about homeless issues in our community or other issues in our community. And those are all huge wins. Anytime that you can connect with the public, Marshall and I talk all the time about social media and how do you make sure that you get probation out there and you explain to your community what it is you do and what you bring to the table. You can go on social media all you want. You don't know who you're really reaching. You might be reaching people in other states or other countries. But when I have 100 people walk through that vehicle and touch buttons and ask what a computer does and how does this work with the court and how are you working with the homeless, that's 100 people that I absolutely know I connected that are in our community. And those are taxpayers and those are people that are going to make a choice in the future. And it's really important to make sure that you're hitting those people too.
And what's interesting too is, right, that what you're doing with the probation outreach vehicle is not something different than what the probation mission is. It's just kind of maybe a different way, an additional way to deliver those services. So educating folks about what you do and everybody else back in the office or in other outreach, it's just, sometimes, a more creative way to see it. Right?
Absolutely.
And speaking of, you never know who you're reaching, I think you have received a lot of news coverage and interest in and around the vehicle idea. So, and what's been the strangest outreach to you about your outreach vehicle?
We've had a lot of coverage.
Yes.
We did have where it was our probation outreach vehicle was on the news in Beijing, China. And it was very fun to watch it on YouTube because the language was different, and I was apparently speaking a different language I didn't know I could do. So anyway, that was kind of fun. But yeah, it's pretty neat.
That's so interesting that would be something that was picked up from it kind of gives you an idea about the barriers that are maybe in people's minds where in a way, this just seems to me like the everyday thing that probation does. It's just now being delivered in a different vehicle. That's great. That's great. Well, anything that we haven't touched here that kind of excites you about the project and, that you'd want other probation folks to hear about?
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity to continue this.
Yes.
And I'm very thankful for that opportunity. But I guess my biggest advice would be is don't be afraid to try something new. Try something new, and if it doesn't work, try something different. And continue to do that until you find something that works.
Yeah, and it works great for your community. It sounds like you have a lot of support within your not only community, but also the leaders in your community. A lot of the board support and mayors and others probably like seeing the vehicle come in their way.
They do. They do a lot.
And I think public support's been huge too.
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit of uncertainty whether or not the public supports all the efforts.
Sure.
Especially around the homeless, which can be a pretty interesting topic at times and can get pretty heated. But everywhere that we've gone, the number of people that come up to us at the end and shake our hand and how can I help you? How can we get money to the department? How can we get you products that you need? And that's been at every level, and that's been through all of our programs that we're running. It's just been great to see how much the public is interested in being part of the solution.
It seems like it's always been a bit of a barrier for probation in general to make sure that the community knows the important work of the mission that you guys are doing and how that plays into just everyday life and the safety aspect of it and how you can improve the community. So this seems like it's had a twofold effect on kind of the marketing of really the mission, but also the creativity expanding the mission to be addressing the issues of the day.
That's true, and that's something we've talked about for years since I began coming to CPOC. Is
Right.
how do we tell people the great things that we do? And I think this is one step. But I think that we've got lots of great ideas out there with all of our staff and people that work in all of our departments. We just got to take a chance.
Right. Well, that's a great message to kind of end on, right? Is we do have to take, the probation mission does allow for a lot of creativity. So making sure to encourage people to try to, address those problems and take a chance on an idea. Because I remember the day that you weren't so sure how this was all going to
I
work
didn't know if it was
out.
going to work or not.
Yeah. And you said that, full disclosure, as you spoke to your peers. And, it obviously quickly did. It sounded like exactly the types of things that probation does and does well. And you obviously have great people in the department that will take the idea and operationalize it. So, so we appreciate that. Kind of maybe a fun question we like to ask the guests. So it's clear you love what you do and you're good at it. But if you weren't doing this job, what would you be doing?
We'll start with Marshall.
Oh,
Well, I've been doing this for 32 years, so I don't know. But what I do know is I get great satisfaction working with people and helping them become better. Whether that's the individuals on probation, the staff that I supervise, or even staff that I meet in the community. So my answer would be it would be doing something along that realm.
okay. Well, it seems like where you're at probably allows for the most success at that. But so we want to keep you right there. What about you, Aaron?
And I would have to kind of echo the same, that it would be working with people in some regard.
Yeah. It seems like that is a real key point to probation, right? You have to want to work with people. You have to enjoy trying to help people move forward and or get help or figure out those pieces. So it sounds like you guys landed in the right place, thankfully for us.
Thank you.
Great. Well, with that, again, thank you for taking some time today to kind of walk us through it. And thank you for bringing the idea to fruition. I mean, I know there's, others have been playing around with a little bit of the concept, but really the idea was able to spring forward an entire, grant program for the state, which is really exciting. So I'm hoping we'll see even further build out of this concept.
Yeah, and thank you to CPOC for your support in all this. It doesn't go past me that we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for your support, Karen, and the rest of the staff.
Well, thank you. Well, this is a true team effort. So
Thank
thanks
you.
again.
Thank you.